I just want to do God's will.
The kind of revolution that the world needs is a Christian revolution.
If you want a miracle, you've got to expect it to happen.
You are the recipients of God's grace and God's blessings, and you rejoice in that reality.
There you go, a disco open for a Southern blues rock guy today.
Yeah, that's nice.
You like it? Okay. I'm glad you're here watching. Appreciate you guys. Zach Williams is with me, and if you don't recognize the name, I know you know the songs. Chainbreaker broke him onto the scene. There Was Jesus with Dolly Parton. What a beautiful song, and she's still going strong. Crazy. Two-time Grammy Award winner. Zach is just one of those guys that's just rolling, from a career standpoint, but not just that. His life has been so completely changed, and he has a book out now telling his story. He calls it Rescue Story, so I'm excited to have Zach back on the program. It's been a long time. He probably doesn't even remember it doing all the interviews, but I remember it because I was like, man, what a cool story. Zach, good to see you again.
Good to see you. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. I'd love to just talk music the whole time, but we got to talk about this book because for people that don't know your story, it's really something to hear it. So I'm going to just step aside for a little bit. Tell us what you're covering in your life, this portion of your life in this rescue story.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much from my earliest memories as a child to where I'm at in my life today. From all of those years. Looking back, I think it's easy. I know it's easy when you're not following the Lord to look and think He's not involved in anything. But for me, being on the other side of that now and having a relationship with God and looking back on my life and seeing how He was involved in everything and every step of the way, and how nothing that I went through was wasted. That's kind of what this book is about. I share a lot of personal stories in this that I've never shared with anybody. Really the hope with this book was that, anybody who struggles, anybody who goes through things like I went through, I meet a lot of moms and dads and people at shows that have sons and daughters who struggle with things. My prayer was that, people will find, hope in the pages of this book that they can go, well, if God can do it for that guy, if he went through and did all of those things and God still could do it for him, then He can do it for anybody. And so that's really what the book was about. I think anytime, you have this idea, I just had people saying you should write a book about your life. And I thought, well, I don't have enough to talk about, and I was worried that we would start this thing and I'd figure out, I've only got a few chapters. But we ended up with a full book and the story, I don't think about it, a lot because I lived it, but when I read the book, when I finished reading it, and I was like, man, that's a pretty wild story, of what God, and so I was really proud of it, and I'm anxious to get it out and see what people think about it.
Yeah, well, just give people who don't know a little bit of an idea, because you weren't always walking with the Lord. You were in some bad places.
No. Yeah, I grew up in church, have an amazing family. I talk a lot about them in the first few chapters. But in my high school years, I lived in a small town. There wasn't a lot going on, and you can get yourself in trouble in these small towns, and you just kind of start doing what the crowd's doing and running around with the wrong crowd. And unfortunately, I was the ringleader of that wrong crowd for a number of years, and got involved in drugs and alcohol and you name it. And it took me down a dark path. I ended up losing a couple of basketball scholarships. I ended up getting another basketball scholarship, but messing my leg up. And so that's when I picked the guitar up in my freshman year. And when I started playing music, sports was history. I didn't want to do that anymore. I knew I wanted to be a rock star. And so I lived that life. Probably the next 10 to 15 years of my life, I went pretty hard. And was definitely not walking with the Lord. I was running, if anything, from a calling on my life that, I didn't at the time understand. And I was in 2012. I was in Europe. I was in a band, and we were traveling. And a guy was, scanning radio stations on our bus, and I heard a song by Big Daddy Weave called "Redeemed." And and the song just changed my life and put me on a completely different course. And I came home from that tour, gave my life to the Lord, and wasn't long after that I was leading worship in church and started writing Christian music, and I wrote Chainbreaker, and that was 7 years ago, and here we are, and it just felt like the right time to write this book and share my story and talk about a lot of these hard things in my life that I went through that I've never shared, and just with hopes that people are going to find something in this book that can pull them out of whatever situation they're in their life.
Yeah. So that guy that was on tour in Europe, right? The guy that wanted to be a rock
Yeah.
star. How different is he from you today? In other words, just give us an idea of the contrast in your
Well,
life.
I mean, I was a pretty rowdy dude, I was just I was kind of always looking for trouble. Might have had a little bit of a chip on my shoulder. Thought I was a little bit better than everybody else. And I would hope that, a lot of that guy is gone. I think I see people in a different way. I think I have a lot more compassion in my life than I did at that time. Definitely have, a better understanding of my, you know, better relationship with my wife and my children than I did, when I was that guy. And so, but I'm a work in progress, just like anybody else.
Sure.
I don't have it all figured out yet. I'm not perfect, I'm still working to try to be better every day. And so that's my goal, is to just keep, being more like him, in every way.
I find that when we get out of the way, he'll do the work for us. So a lot of it's just it's that surrender thing. What about peace? You have more peace in your life?
Yeah, I mean, I think definitely have more peace knowing of where I'm going, one day. There's a peace with that. I think for me, there's always that, I struggle a lot of times when I get ready to work on a new record or new songs of this idea of what if I can't duplicate, what I've done in the past. And so that can create a little bit of an unrest. But for the most part, I've got way more peace than I used to have.
So, okay, let me ask you, and I don't know. So I'm going uncharted territory here, because most people, Christian artists that come through here, they're wonderful people. Occasionally, you get some little diva-esque, but vast majority great people. I also know several who have really struggled after having great success in the Christian music scene.
Yeah,
and I won't name names, but the resounding theme with those who struggle after success is that even in the Christian music industry, their identity became the musician, the successful one with a top 10 album, top 10 hit. How much of a struggle? Because at the end of the day, dude, you're a child of God, and that's all that matters.
Yeah,
and that should be enough. But I get it. We all struggle in that area. Is that something that you still kind of have to remind yourself of?
absolutely. I think I think it's easy to let your flesh, creep back in and make you think, that, this is all you that's doing it, when really it's not. I think about when Chainbreaker, happened. That song wrote itself, in 15 minutes. I just remember in that room that day, this idea came out of nowhere, and then all of a sudden we had this song, and I was driving back with the demo, literally with the demo, pretty much of the song, the way it ended up on the radio. It's actually the same vocal that I recorded the day we wrote it. I went and tried to re-record that vocal 3 or 4 different times in different studios, and it never had the feeling that it had that day. And so I think, when things like that happen and you have success, and then, you follow a song up with even more success, and then you keep having success. I think there's an expectation that you feel from people, especially from, record label people and fans. But I think if anything, I probably put more pressure on myself than anybody, because I do want to be the best at what I do. But it's like you just said, like, doesn't matter how good I am, God still loves me. Like he's still there. And at the end of the day, you just have to, rest in knowing that, hey, he's paved the way. He's going to continue to pave the way. There's going to be these seasons, and the songs will be there. And for me, a lot of times it's just digging back into the Word and what God's saying, what I'm going through in that part of my life, and just letting Him write those stories. And so, but I can definitely understand and know how that pressure can feel.
Yeah, honestly, I think that there's even more of it when you're in the Christian arena. I mean, my dad being an evangelist, he struggled with a lot of that because you're doing God's work, right? So there's almost a little extra pressure in that regard. But man, at the end of the day, love Lord your God with all your heart, love your neighbor as yourself. That's all Jesus really asks of us. So yeah, rest in that. I want to ask you. You mentioned a lot of parents coming to you and the hope that you can give them. One thing you do talk about in the book is your parents' role in your life. Tell us a little bit about that, because man, as a dad myself, thank God, none of my kids are struggling with any kind of addiction, or they're all in a good place. But that's a hard thing for a parent. Tell us about yours.
And I, my parents were very patient. There was a lot of grace in my life that they shown me through the years, and a lot of it that I've used, and didn't deserve. But they never wavered in their faith and their trust in the Lord and His plans for my life. And I think that it just got to a point where they just kind of said, "Okay, God, we can't do this anymore. Like, we've got to get out of the way and let you do what you do." And it was, like I said, I was 33 years old when I got saved. Had grown up in church. My dad was a worship leader. My mom sang at church. I knew about Jesus. I knew all of the stories. Grew up in Sunday school and church camps and things like that. And, there was never this ultimatum or this judgment that came with anything from my family. There was a lot of grace, like I said, but there was definitely a place in my life where they were finally like, we don't know what we've done wrong. Like, we've raised this kid the way that you've asked us to raise him, and we've just got to step back. And I think it was when they stepped back that God was finally like, okay, let me show you what I can do now. And I think a lot of the times, I think parents just, they want to be the one that has the answer to everything. But God's answers are better. His timing's better. His plans are better, and they're, exactly what we need. And so, but they were very, very gracious and very patient with me growing up.
I'm guessing there was a lot of prayer involved on their part.
A lot of prayer on their part, a lot of trust, a lot of faith. Yeah, absolutely.
All right. I'll show people your website real quick. This is ZachWilliamsMusic.com. And by the way, if you know someone who, is like me, I like to pick up my guitar and play along to the radio at home and entertain myself. I've got one fan. It's me. But the book is really a good book. If you want to reach somebody, you can go, hey, look, check this out. And if you're like, who is this? Just play a song or two of Zach's, and they'll be like, oh, okay, this guy's legit, right? So I do want to ask you about the music, because I love the music. Yeah. What's going on musically for you? Are you touring? Or are you working on a new album? Where are you at?
I started a tour. We started a tour on March 8th. It'll be the last time we do the 100 Highways tour. I put a record out about a year and a half, 2 years ago, and it's called 100 Highways. And we're actually releasing my next single that goes to radio in March. It's maybe my favorite song I've ever written. It was where I got the title for the record from. It's called Looking for You. There's a lyric in the chorus that says, down 100 highways of empty pursuit, 1,000 foolish things I went through. I didn't know it back then, but now I do. I was looking for you.
Wow.
It worked out where I've got a friend that I called and I said, hey, do you want to sing on this? And she said, yeah, I'd love to. And I don't think I ever in my wildest dreams imagined doing one song with Dolly Parton, much less twice. But she's on this song with me again, and turned out really special. And she loved it. I played the song for about 2 years ago, and she got teary-eyed and choked up listening to it. And she was like, it's beautiful. She said, why didn't you ask me to sing on it? And I was like, well, I didn't know if you'd want to. And she said, absolutely. So we were getting ready to release this last single off this record, and I said, let's see if Dolly wants to sing on it again. And she did. And so we got that coming out in just a few weeks, and I am working on new music. I'm writing pretty much every day of this month. I've been writing, trying to put together a handful of songs that feel good enough to make a record out of. So hopefully in the fall, I've got some new stuff that nobody's heard of coming out, and getting ready to release an album soon, hopefully.
Love it. No, I love it. I love thanks for the update. We'll look forward to that. And all the tour information's on your website for people. Find out where Zach's coming and go check it out. What do you do? So show prep, right? You're getting ready to play. And I know the repetition is just crazy with what you guys do. But what do you want the person who comes to your concert to walk away with, in addition to a great, show? It is a show. I get that. We love good sound. We love good lights. All those things. But what more do you want them to leave a Zach Williams concert with?
I think for me, it's been really cool to see, the fan base that's kind of happened. I would say in a genre of music where I think the majority of fans, in Christian music are probably women. It's been really cool to see a lot of men coming out to my concerts, and a lot of guys that if you looked at them and just immediately judged them, you would probably think they don't go to church. They're probably not going to go to church on Sunday. But I see these guys at concerts, and we play a lot of theaters out on the road, and I think a lot of times a lot of people feel a little more comfortable. They feel like they're not going to have somebody preaching at them, or their wife heard a song and was like, "Hey, check out this Zach Williams song," and they liked it because it sounded country or Southern. And so, when they come in, my plan, my prayer, whatever you want to call it, is these men and women just need to know that they don't have to have it all figured out or have it all together or be perfect. Like there's nothing that you can do to deserve what God's done in your life. It's free. It's a gift. And I think if people can understand that and accept that, then there's a lot of freedom in knowing that you don't have to have it figured out yet. Like just let God into your heart. He'll figure that out for you. And so, that's it. That's just that, coming to these concerts, we're going to have church, but it might not be the church that you're used to having.
Yeah, good for you. Cause a lot of those guys wouldn't go to the church that we're used to having. Right. But they'll go to your concert. Well, and I hope at the end of, I don't know, all the venues you're playing, some probably fairly small, some probably pretty big. At the end of it, I hope they applaud. But most of all, I love the scripture that says when one person comes to Christ, all of heaven rejoices. And I like to see, like to think you're out there bringing that person to Christ, and at the end of your show, all of heaven is rejoicing. So, man, appreciate what you do.
Yeah, well, that's awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Anything you want to add before I let you go? I love talking to you, man.
No, brother, I think we covered everything. Book comes out February 27th. You guys go check it out.
Oh, okay. I didn't realize. So is it pre-order available now?
Pre-order right now. The book comes out on the 27th of this month, and audio book will be out as well. Me and my wife went in last week and recorded all the audio for it, and so we're excited about that. So if you want to hear it, if you want to hear some country boy, tell you the story, then check it out.
Oh, that'd be great. Audiobooks are more of a beating than you think. It's a lot of work.
They are. I was terrified to do it at first, but I ended up loving it, And for me, it was really cool. I finished reading my own story, and I was like, wow, that's a pretty good story. So I'm excited about it.
Well, it's not just a good story, it's a God story, and that's always a good story.
God's.
Appreciate you, man.
Well, thanks for having me, man. It's good talking.
Absolutely. Good.
Alrighty, brother.
Good seeing you.
See
I'm going to have to check out your calendar and see when you're in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. But, yeah, you guys check out the website as well. Thanks, Zach. Let's see. This is the website, ZachWilliamsMusic.com. The book looks like this. Available pre-order. Pick it up. Give it to someone you love. Tell them God can be in their story as well. Appreciate you guys being here. See you again next time on Life Today Live.
God bless.